the agents are victims also. And, hear me out. Imagine you're an immigrations and customs enforcement officer in 2024. And I don't understand how so many people can call themselves followers of Christ, believers in the Bible, and then oppress people. I mean, anything other than compassion are superficial and distractions, and at the end of the day, participating in the whole capitalist machine is oppressive to other people just by being in it. So becoming aware of all of these things and trying to find ways to break out of the kind of oppressive matrix that we find ourselves in. All right, so let's start this thing. The cat's ready. So obviously there has been a lot going on in the world in general. So there has been a lot going on in the world. You obviously know that. The ICE shootings, killings that happened in Minneapolis kind of shook the country and brought about a lot of political unrest, as it were. Like most people watching this stuff on the news, on YouTube, trying to figure out, I wholly overthought is the name of the channel for a reason. And between the kind of ADD and some other of the things that I, got blessed with, critical analysis is kind of like my brain's default setting is to try to pick apart every little piece of a thing from every single angle to try to, I don't do it intentionally. It does that, my brain. And a lot of times picks up on things that I wouldn't have seen, but my brain caught. And, we had an example just a while ago. We were filling up the bathtub in case we lost power, and I accidentally left it running, and I meant to go back and check it, but we went out in the snow, it got longer, and there was a point in time where we were doing something, and I was like, oh my God, the water's on. And we went back there, and it looked like it had just started to overflow the tub. So I don't know how my brain does stuff like that. And I'm not saying it's amazing, like me. I really do look at it as a separate thing. There's me, and then there's my brain. And so, my brain does some pretty cool things sometimes. And looking at this whole, ICE, immigration, what's going on with the Trump administration in general, all of that stuff has been, I wish I could, politics, and the recent, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and conspiracies in general. I was fascinated with JFK from the time I was 7, because my dad was fascinated with it and talked about it a lot. And so I kind of grew up wondering, how could everybody think that this one guy shot JFK when it's so incredibly obvious that at most he was the sacrificed pawn, if he even knew. He said he was a patsy. He was probably right. So I grew up with that, that became kind of my mindset about government. And, in 2000, when, I guess it was 2000, when Bush basically did steal the election, it looked like Gore was going to win. And then, that whole recount Florida thing, the Brooks Brothers riot and all that stuff, it felt like the country was stolen. But I realized in the, somewhat recent past that country was stolen with JFK. That's the time. That's the dividing. That's when we, deviated from the path we were on. And there's a lot of, stuff in the background. Anybody that knows a lot about the JFK thing knows, the whole military industrial complex, Alan Dulles getting fired, and intelligence, and I mean, there's so much stuff. So when the Charlie Kirk thing happened, it was pretty quick that I started assuming it was a conspiracy of some kind. And now, continue forward and you get to this ICE stuff. And the whole immigration thing is doomed to fail because there are not millions of illegal immigrants in this country that commit crimes. The vast majority of them are just regular people, obviously. I mean, seems obvious. They're gardeners and, whatever. They do lots of things. Good for the economy, low wage labor and like all that stuff. And if they would just admit that there are not 40 million illegal immigrants in the country, a lot of people came in. But what they're doing is so clearly not what we thought they were going to do. We, not even really meaning me. I'm not a Trump guy. I'm classically a conservative, and this has recently come into, more part of my kind of analysis. Anyway, the whole ICE thing, they're in Minneapolis and they're like constantly having these clashes with people. And it seemed I remember several months ago saying, if they continue, obviously somebody's going to resist and get shot. And then I figured we would have, a civil war, maybe we're on the way to that. I don't know. So, Minneapolis, and when Renee Good was killed, it was pretty obvious that the administration came out and lied. She's a left-wing terrorist agitator and all this stuff. And then the video was very clearly obvious that that was all a lie. There wasn't even a threat. And it was pretty obvious that he saw the guy that shot her, that he saw her as either less than human or the enemy or whatever, to be able to shoot her in the head 3 times as she tried to drive away. And then to say effing B afterwards, that's obviously not what I'm laughing about. Laughing about me trying to abbreviate the cuss words. But it was very, okay, that was fun. It was very obvious. Socks, say hello. Hey, say hello. Do it. Say hello. You suck. It highlighted the problem that was obviously, present. That there is no way to do what they are trying to do. So they are having to really scramble. And that's why they're arresting people in parking lots and they're arresting citizens. If they really have quotas and, the Bavino really told them, like, use all your tear gas, use all your less lethals. If they touch you, arrest them. It's clearly like a offensive, hostile, military type occupation. And these guys are not really even law enforcement. They're definitely not military. I can't believe it took me that long to get to what I was originally going to start with. So the agents are victims also. And, hear me out because so imagine you're an immigrations and customs enforcement officer in 2024. And you are like going out and serving civil summons to people for, overstaying visas and stuff. I don't even really think they arrest and grab those people typically. So, they're very much just a civil, like, enforcement kind of, it's very minimal. They aren't expecting to be wearing bulletproof vests and doing crowd control, like, whatsoever. It's not even a thought, I would assume. So then 2025 comes, and I don't know how they transformed it, meaning the Trump administration. I don't know how they changed it, how they were able to, I mean, I guess executive orders. I really, it's kind of crazy to think about how they would have changed it. I heard somebody said that they typical ICE officer has $4,000 worth of just gear, not counting weapons. They would have had to buy that for all of them, or give them allowances to go and get it themselves, whatever. But they had to transform it into a military. And, the very large increase in funding, I'm assuming they started hiring people. And so you start seeing these people getting hired. And I guess, at a certain point, they started sending them to cities, and they had trained a little. And all of a sudden, you were serving a summons 6 months before, and now you're like grabbing some guy just because he's, looks Latino, to see whether he's a citizen or not, hoping you can arrest him, because if you don't arrest enough of them, you get fired. And the officers that you're working with are getting more and more hostile and military, like enemy mindset, like they're going into combat, which they are not. They're not going into combat. They are, I mean, that's why it's so crazy. They should be serving summons to people, yet they have weapons and full body armor with like tactical, infrared camera, night vision goggles, suppressors on their fully automatic weapons. I mean, full combat, knocking on doors to, say, hey, we got to get this guy, we got a warrant, when they definitely don't have a warrant. They have, somebody that they work for, like, wrote a name down. Hopefully there's at least a name. A lot of times they're just grabbing people. Anyway, the written a good thing happens, and it crystallizes for, average citizens that, that this crazy, insane thing is happening. So everybody's like on high alert, paying attention. And then you have the Alex Pretti thing happen. And obviously tragic, obviously hostile, not him. Like, they treated him as a combatant. And, when you find out that an enemy has a weapon on them and somebody yells gun, people are going to start shooting. I mean, it was bound to happen. And it really sucks a lot. Of course, the administration coming out and saying, well, he had a gun, obviously is a direct confrontation to everything they've ever said about guns, which is you can carry a gun, you can own a gun, you can carry a gun in public, you can, I mean, the highest level of rights for gun owners, I would imagine probably in the world, but definitely in most of the Western world, as everybody knows. I mean, this is like a very well-known, typically people that are on the right politically are, on the whole, more Christian, believe in the Second Amendment, etc. Anti-abortion, anti-gay marriage, all that stuff, the typical social issues. On all of those issues, the social issues, I am actually more on the left. But policy-wise, I'm more a conservative kind of mindset, like tradition and keeping things the way they are, and, order and small government and not a lot of oversight, not a lot of welfare. But obviously that's all only if the government is doing it right, because there have to be safety nets, because capitalism unfairly puts a lot of people in a position where they can barely afford to live. So, it's a pretty, like, the Second Amendment coming into it is a pretty, that's funny, is kind of monumental. I mean, it's hard to really even overstate. What I can't believe is that all of the gun owners, the NRA, and everybody that owns a gun and has ever talked about the Second Amendment aren't up in arms, literally, saying, so now you're telling us if we carry a gun, you're going to kill us. That's basically the government declaring war on its own people. On the right, I mean, obviously on the left already. I mean, more or less. So it creates an incredibly unsustainable situation in play. And I don't even really, what I have been thinking of and processing is trying to figure out at least the goal of ICE. And I think, I was trying to think 4D chess, like, they're wanting ICE to become the enemy so then they can abolish ICE and kind of, they will have been the bad one. And so they'll be able to do more after that. But I don't even think it's that deep. So I don't even think it's that deep of a reason. I really think that they believed, or at least pretended to believe, that there were so many illegal immigrants in the country that it was actually harming, Americans as far as getting jobs and stuff like that. And, getting like government benefits, not paying taxes, and all those typical things that they kind of talk about with immigration. And we could talk about the economics of immigration. I proudly have an economics degree. They come in with this, we're going to deport a bunch of illegal aliens. And the actual facts are that there are a very small number of illegal aliens that are criminals. Very, very small percentage. Like minuscule. And what they're doing instead is going after anybody that looks like brown skin, dark skinned people. Look like maybe not born in this country, then they're gonna, assume that you're not a citizen and then do all of this crazy stuff that they are doing now. But that doesn't change the facts that there just aren't enough illegal immigrants who are criminals to, arrest and it look like something that's going to change things. We're talking about like, I don't know the numbers. I really don't. They throw around a lot of numbers, 30 to 40 million, and then 15 million. And out of all of it, probably like 2-3% have committed crimes. So we're talking about a pretty small number of people. It's not going to seem like a big change. They're not going to be able to put a check beside it and say, yeah, we did good on immigration. So that's what they tried to turn it into. We'll just arrest a bunch of people. Who cares if it destroys their lives? That doesn't matter. We'll have all these people that we arrested and we can say that we deported them and now it'll be easier to get a job. And, just political BS. And it's good, I guess, that they're at least acknowledging something needs to change by, originally Homeland Security was going to investigate and wasn't allowing anybody else access to the evidence and stuff. And it really looked like they were just going to be like, yeah, nothing illegal, let's proceed. But it was so incredibly ridiculous, meaning the video and what happened, that they weren't able to just kind of keep going. People freaked out, obviously. If you're watching this, you already know. They've said that they're going to do impartial investigation and ICE needs to change their tactics and stuff. So obviously that doesn't actually completely fix the problem. Even just going forward, obviously all the lives that have been destroyed and wrecked and messed up so far, obviously that's all happened and can't be changed. They could actually, change their priorities to be actually making life better for Americans. But instead, they're trying to just do whatever gets the, more power, more support, all that. It seems pretty obvious that Trump is using the fact that he's president and the power that he has to just make a bunch of extra money, pretty much. And the power is obviously, I mean, it's really kind of crazy the way it's set up right now, that Congress could do pretty much anything, but are supporting his every move. And the Second Amendment and guns coming into it, it really does change everything, because that's his base, almost by definition. There's they throw around 80% of white evangelicals voted for Trump, and it's like the solid block. And obviously that started way back with Jerry Falwell, when the Republicans weren't even anti-abortion until Falwell comes around. And then these social issues all get rolled together, and they become anti-abortion, anti-gay marriage, pro-gun, and anti-immigrant, over time. So that it's basically his support comes from people that, on the whole, have guns, want guns, very anti-government control, libertarian type idea. I mean, a lot like me. And so the Second Amendment coming into it, for me, it highlights the social issue versus policy, because I would, at the most conservative, I would consider myself as a compassionate conservative. Like, I believe in conservative policies kind of theoretically, the smaller government, fiscal policy, but when it comes to social issues, I think every single person should be allowed to do and be whatever they want, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. I don't think the whole, things are happening in your face, I don't think that gives anybody a right to try to control what other people do. So, I guess you'd have to call me a libertarian. That I would be that would be the best, closest descriptor. I'm obviously in the neurodivergent community. I've got a bunch of, kind of interesting, I've kind of been to the bottom and then kind of started over, and, it's not really all that typical. But at this point, it's hard to imagine how people that support guns, and a large part are Christian, call themselves Christians. I'm not sure if you watch a guy named Tim Whitaker, the New Evangelicals. He talks about things a lot like I am. He looks at things a lot like I do. That Trump has kind of hijacked the Christianity, and evangelicals especially kind of are living in a fantasy, oppressive dream world, and while calling themselves Christians, are politically supporting a guy who is doing almost nothing in a Christian way, meaning the Trump administration. I mean, the stuff with immigration, they're not loving their neighbor. They're not giving to the poor. They're not helping people in need. That's what Christ was about. And to be a Christian today means living as he would or would have you. Being a Christian is it's if you call yourself a Christian, you really, in my opinion, have a responsibility to act like the kind of person that a non-Christian would see and be like, oh, that's really amazing that guy is, a giving a small amount of money that he does have to a cause he believes in, and helping people in ways, being compassionate. If you make any content at all, not being hateful and divisive and hostile. It's very, when you are saved and become a Christian, you gain an identity in Christ when your identity before that was very, different and of the world. And whether it was like, hardcore drugs or, like going to prison, or if you're just kind of a much more normal but still not follower of Christ beforehand, there's a lot of things you look back at and kind of wonder how you could have been like that. And it's an amazing thing to gain an identity in Christ, especially if you feel like your identity, like at that time, is very bad, of the world, money, drugs, sex, all the things that are superficial and distractions. And at the end of the day, participating in the whole capitalist machine is oppressive to other people just by being in it. So becoming aware of all of these things and trying to find ways to break out of the kind of oppressive matrix that we find ourselves in because we were born in this country and grew up, and it's just our circumstance. And if you don't have a ton of money, you don't get out of it. You just have to, kind of barely make it. And when you then at that become saved and gain an identity in Christ, you have like total forgiveness and support and love and community and all of that stuff. And I don't understand how so many people can call themselves followers of Christ, believers in the Bible, and then oppress people or, target immigrants, or watch the news and see bad things happening to people and be like glad, or, anything other than compassion. I don't understand. I didn't know Alex Pretti, but he used, he was a nurse for combat veterans, first of all. I would consider that, an indicator that he was an incredibly good person just by itself. But then, the confrontation, the whole ICE in Minneapolis thing, and then him going down there to protest, to be present, to show support even, and being treated like a hostile enemy combatant, and trying to help a lady who was being abused and, treated like a combatant herself, and got killed. And then the story they try to release about it, it's like, it's as terrible as you can really get for what it was. And as a Christian, I don't understand how anybody could think anything other than how wrong that is. And even if he had been a shitty person, and even if he hadn't been a citizen, what happened was insane. But for them to then come out and say, well, he had a gun, that's, yeah, of course. So do every other one of your supporters. So what? It certainly doesn't mean that it's okay to kill them. And it creates a wedge politically and socially that I don't really, I'm not sure how it's going to go from here. I mean, we really might be still on the edge of a civil war. It's amazing in Minneapolis how they have been able to, in the face of the stuff that's been happening, to still stay nonviolent. It's pretty amazing, and that's the only way that it's going to work. I don't know if we would have been able to do that here in North Carolina, where we, by the way, are getting a ton of snow. I think we had about 6 inches or so last time we went outside. So the situation is, I mean, it's obviously bad. I don't really know what to think is going to happen now, but it's pretty important to have values and priorities that are, for unity, community, communion, togetherness. As a follower of Christ, I am, I have to love my neighbor as myself. And your neighbor means whoever your neighbor is. It doesn't mean only if they look like you. It doesn't mean if they have more money than you. It means everybody. That includes non-followers of Christ. I guess maybe that can't go unsaid, but that is how it is. The name of the channel before, like a couple of months ago, was Why Are We Here? WIREWIIHERE, and play on words that my brain came up with back when me and my son were having to do screen names for some video games. And it stuck for a while. And philosophy is the reason. I mean, philosophy, the pondering of things, why things are the way they are. That I had I would say every day I spend 30% of my energy analyzing things philosophically, in one way or another. Pretty recently had an idea for, in life, when you have priorities, is it the prioritizing them more important than the actual doing of the things that you then have as priorities? And values, some of these things are things you can't really just change, but you can change your actions. And when you do things, they become habits. And when you habitually do things, they become your character. And when you display your character for a while, it becomes your identity. Identity obviously influences your actions. So, it's always good if you just, at any given moment, I'm going to throw something over there. At any given moment, it's easier and better if you're already the thing that you want to be. But, through having values, if you're lonely, unattached, unconnected, I would say read some of the Bible, go to a church. I definitely thought I would never be a Christian. I kind of was a Christian, but not a follower of Christ. I never ever thought that I could actually believe in anything in the Bible. And I now find myself as a full believer, follower of Christ. It's crazy. So, and it's amazing. That's kind of the point. It gives you an entire new existence that you didn't have. as well as a bunch of people and, you know, things to do, ways to organize your thinking, ways to process how you feel and act. I mean, it's a entirely new and additional identity that didn't exist before, obviously. And you can change the world. I mean, it's like, well, there's no point in voting because, you know, it's just one vote. Everybody else will vote. Like, if everybody said that, then nobody voted. That's a thing that is a paradox, but it is also true that if everybody would vote, we would have better leaders. We probably would not be in the position we're in now. But a lot of the reason that that we are in this position is because Christianity, you know, being hijacked. And it's not only does it have a bunch of not good consequences, but it also teaches people who we are, but incorrectly. Like, it teaches people that we are things that we aren't. We aren't haters of different looking people. We love everybody. And it's going to be very hard for the, you know, mainstream public to see that because of these really visible, you know, famous, like, you know, president people, Christians, saying that they're Christians and doing this stuff. It's very hypocritical. It's very obvious, and it's bad for everybody, really, in my opinion. But then, you know, the stuff in Minneapolis highlighting the political issues, and then the coming out of that, the Second Amendment being under attack as it is at the same time. And I kind of, I mean, if you're much like me, you know, you can kind of, it's a much better road and life now. And I probably have kind of drug on this video. I don't know where I'm going to end up cutting it off, but I think I'm probably going to drop it there. I hope that this video helps somehow. And I would definitely appreciate and love any kind of comment, like, subscribe, any of that. I have kind of been on hiatus for a little while, but I'm planning to be making consistently videos again here pretty soon. Partly thanks to my son, who ramped up his efforts on his channel recently, and it's driving me to get back to what I was trying to do. But we're also starting to make some music, and I hope that I can get the intro thing done and into this video, but we'll see. Oh man. So, about to cut the video here. I don't know what it was that I would even play. Yeah, so I have to get the looper involved. Never sounds as good when it's by itself, unprocessed and everything. But Um, I'm playing with the idea of doing every video like this and having a guitar and then kind of just, doing things that feel right. If I had like um, a kind of a core audience or whatever, um, I would I would do more if it was wanted. Um, it's a crazy thing to realize. Like I'm making videos of myself and putting them in the public. Uh, I've always been a pretty private person, uh, and I don't want to be famous or anything. I I feel like I have a lot of like my brain does a lot of pretty cool things, and there's very frequently I want to share stuff with people, and I share stuff with my wife and son all the time, but I wanted to share stuff with more people, and now to be a follower of Christ also, I want to share that message, but I'm not very good at it, and also I'm a pretty new baby Christian, so like don't think that I am representative of all Christians or whatever. I'm just kind of giving my take. And I was going to start off by saying the thing about the agents being victims. The agents are victims too. These unsung hero victims, agents, and then kind of go into it. But I kind of started more of an explanation. I don't yet know if I should be like doing more editing or less. And I'm trying to figure all that out. Probably shouldn't even be saying any of this. Probably cut it anyway. But I think I'm going to drop it there. I think I'm gone long enough. I really do appreciate you watching. If you're watching this, you're literally like my hero and one of my favorite people in the world. If there's one, it might not even be one, but hopefully someday. Really hope that everybody stays safe and, participates in this life in a good way. So you can be proud of yourself and good to people around you and however you can. But that's probably all for now. Till next time, this side or the other.